Hi, my name is Trisha Prabhu. I am from Chicago, Illinois, and I am the founder and CEO of ReThink. And we are a global movement with the mission of tackling cyberbullying and redefining internet culture to be more positive.
Hi, I'm Emma Leiken. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I work at Omidyar Network, where I lead our youth and technology portfolio on the responsible technology team. I think one of the opportunities that we have in the youth mental health space is to consider how we can bridge the gap between the youth mental health conversation and work and the digital well-being conversation and work. So how can we imagine what youth well-being looks like in the online space? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of where we can center that conversation is by thinking about safeguards. Mm-hmm. And safeguards can take the shape of both policy solutions and design solutions. Mm-hmm. So 3 examples. First, what does it look like to offer young people agency when it comes to their interactions with technology, and transparency to be able to make well-being affirming decisions for themselves, whether mm-hmm. it's turning off algorithmic recommendation systems or minimizing data collection and things of that nature. And also ensuring that platforms are accountable mm-hmm. for the harms that they amplify or perpetuate for young people online. And lastly, I think there's a piece from a policy perspective of what does it look like to ensure that researchers and academics and nonprofits have the data to understand the harms and really ideate on the right solutions. And so there's a transparency and data access piece of the puzzle that's important as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that that's so spot on. And I love the framing and the lens of safeguards, right? Because for me, safeguards are all about preventative action. And what we've seen so far, I think, in tackling youth mental health in the online world are reactive approaches. And so I love this vision of let's see how we can actually create an ecosystem that's safer by design. And so policy, I think, is one key component of that. And of course, coming from my perspective, working in the technology world, I also think about how we can design a safer internet through technology. And so, whether it's things like friction, right, that give you the chance to pause and think before they say something, and put them in the driver's seat of what they're saying, as opposed to, as you pointed out, algorithms or other affordances that might push them in other directions, right? Or technology that is actually created by young people, platforms that are created by young people, that center their experiences and the things that they care about. I think we have an opportunity to create digital experiences that are designed for safety, right? And that, I think, is so powerful because of that whole safeguards framework, right? Because it has the chance to create things that are safe proactively as opposed to reactively. So absolutely, I agree.
I love that. So what do you think we need next in work to bring young people more meaningfully into the digital well-being conversation?
Such a good question. I mean, I think what we need next to bring young people into the digital well-being conversation is one, to create really meaningful channels for people of all different backgrounds to be represented in this conversation. That means young people at different stages. Often we use young people as a monolithic term, but young people at different stages, right, of their technology journey as they're introduced to the internet and devices. It means young people with different lived experience on the internet, including experience with harms, but also experience using the internet for good and for social change. It also means, bringing in young people from different backgrounds, right, that have different perspectives because of who they are. And in doing so can help us think about where gaps might exist, right, currently in this work. And because of their background, because of their perspective, they're equipped to say, okay, this is how we can address those gaps. So I think creating channels to really critically and intentionally welcome diverse youth into this work, that's what I think is really needed to bring young people in. And by doing that, we're going to, I think, be much better equipped to have young people leading the charge and doing work that's really needed in this space. What about you? What do you think is needed?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more that it's really important to think about modalities for meaningful youth engagement mm-hmm. in work around digital well-being and mental health and technology policy. And I think another lever that we have here is actually intergenerational collaboration. So yeah. I don't think that young people alone or adults alone will solve the youth mental health crisis, or the fact that our digital platforms are, unregulated, unsafe, they don't have certain modes of accountability right now. I think there's power in intergenerational collaboration yes. in the youth mental health and well-being space, and we should look to examples of where that's happening now and different groups that are modeling that kind of work. And so to offer one example of a meaningful intergenerational collaboration in the youth well-being space, there's a civil society group called Accountable Tech that does a lot of work on platform accountability. And they ended up working very closely with a youth-led coalition and group called Design It For Us, to think about how can we best leverage our different modes of expertise, our passions, our strengths. And I think when we have that meaningful intergenerational collaboration, especially in the policy and advocacy space, we can move the needle a lot more, because you also have those with different lived experiences that can speak to harms in different ways, that can ideate on solutions in a more holistic way.
I think that is so spot on, and I think, as you point out, the value in intergenerational collaboration is we can do what we were talking about earlier, which is actually give young people the agency and the ability to put their ideas into action, right? Young people have the vision, we have the experience, we have the perspective, we know where the problem is, and we have really creative ideas for how to fix it. But with adults backing us, with adults, giving us the funds, giving us the resources, giving us the credibility and the legitimacy in certain spaces, we can be uplifted, we can be elevated, and Design It For Us is a great example of that. Certainly in my own work, it's really only because there are adults that have said, yes, we need young people's voices at the table, that often I've been able to make my work happen. So I think that intergenerational collaboration is so powerful. Because of what it can mean for young people and the way that they can take up space in ways that they haven't. So I'm excited to see how young people and adults can work together to realize a digital world that everyone deserves.
So are there any examples of infrastructures or platforms that you've seen that are uplifting youth-led and intergenerationally led work in the digital well-being space?
Yeah, it's a great question. One that comes to mind that is particularly salient for me is, ReThink, which is the organization that I run, was recently named a grantee of the Responsible Tech Youth Power Fund, which is a first of its kind fund that aims to put youth voices at the forefront of work to create safer digital spaces. There are 15 funders that came together and are giving grants to youth-led work to realize a better digital world. The work itself is so diverse. You have grantees working on everything from cyberbullying to digital advocacy. So it's really incredible to see that diverse work. The community itself is amazing, because now you have young people that are able to support one another in the work that we're doing, to be able to uplift one another, to cheerlead one another. But to have this institutional backing, right? To have 15 incredible organizations supporting young people, saying we believe in them, we believe in their voices. That legitimacy is huge. To have real money behind those words, right? To have funding to help implement projects is huge. In our case, this funding is going to enable us to make the ReThink technology, our educational programs available to youth across the U.S., in some cases for free to underrepresented populations that otherwise often don't have access to the work that we're doing. So, it's transformational for us as an organization. And then personally, as a youth leader in the responsible tech space, it is so affirming to have these organizations believe in us, to believe in me. That means so much. And so it's so special to have that kind of backing and that kind of validation. So I think it's a really great example, right, of the way that organizations can come together with this shared vision of we want to support youth, right, and create, a community, a network, offer funding and resources, and ultimately put young people on a pedestal to do this important work.